Currently, as we see in certain states in the world today, we have individuals or groups of persons who, due to certain legitimate demands that they have on their government or that they have on their societies, have made it, a responsibility on their part, even on behalf of people that they also represent, to ensure that they drive for changes, to ensure that the government, still listens to them and does what it is that they are fighting for. So we are talking about groups, terrorist groups, not just any terrorist group rising up all in the name of, I'm now a terrorist group. We are talking about terrorist groups who were founded based on, who exist based on foundations of legitimate demands that they have on their governments. So we are talking about, when we talk about consensus today, we're talking about consensus that really cause no real harm to the state. For example, political inclusion and, temporary controls of areas in which these people are natives of. So that is the kind of consensus that we are talking about in today's debate. So you can look at this as a form of, and as a matter of fact, the burden of this debate from the government is saying, should we negotiate with terrorists? And even if we want to negotiate with terrorists, should we go ahead to want to appease them? I'm going to give you justification. I'll talk about the principle and pragmatics.
Look, you have to defend the use of these kinds of appeasement in the vast majority of circumstances. You can't say when you have the legitimate causes to appease them, when you don't have them. It's like it has to be in the vast majority of circumstances.
Okay, in the vast majority of circumstances, as I started from, we have people forming terrorist groups because the government fails to address certain demands that they have as a people. We see people from, like for example, Boko Haram in northern Nigeria, because they think that maybe they want some political goals, some religious goals that they are driving for and things like that, but the government is not really giving them a face. So as a matter of fact, we now see them forming or turning into a terrorist group. That is the kind of thing we are talking about, not someone saying, okay, because we want government to do this, we are just going to become a terrorist group all of a sudden. Justification. Why do we think that it's justified for government to make certain concessions as this? First of all, we tell you that government owes an obligation to all its citizens. So what we are talking about in today's debate is domestic terrorist groups. So we are talking about people who are terrorist groups who are formed, mainly by individuals of that, or who are citizens of that particular country. We say first of all that marginalized groups who are agitated deserve a hearing based on their citizenship and based on, legitimate demands, as I just said earlier, that they have on their government. Because we cannot see people, we do not expect people to just wake up one morning and start making some ridiculous demands of the government. We think that is not what we are defending on this side of the house. As long as we can ascertain that there's something that they are crying for, which the government is in a position to give to them, and it really causes no harm to the state, then we say that government should go ahead to make such concession. Secondly, on justification, we say that government compromise isn't always, a weakness or an approval of evil. We agree that these terrorists have done things that are horrible in the past, but we are saying that in this case it is a necessary trade-off, because we are looking as a government at things, that are better for us in the long term. We say that closure, like this guy want to, talk about, closure for past victims is, giving up for the need for closure, for the need of, for the need of removing. Okay, closure for past victims is, a trade-off that we are willing to, take up as a government to avoid the need for future, closure that will be needed to be given to these people. So we say that if currently there's closure that needs to be done on past victims, we say that as long as these conflicts still remain in this state, it means that there will be a need for government to still want to fight for closure for people who are not going to be future victims. As a result of that, we say that, okay, to avoid closure in the future, let us just forget about the closure in the past and give these guys, a listening ear by making certain concessions to what they want. Principle. We say that if a drastic measure preserves future security and peace, then it is something that is justified. We say from this side of the house that as long as government is necessary or is ready to make these concessions, which we're going to prove later that they are going to work, if government makes these concessions, it is something that greatly reduces the tendency for conflicts sometime in the future. Then we say if that is the case, then it is justified for government, to take on this thing. But secondly, we say that we shouldn't dwell too much on the past and fail to reach out for the future. As long as this is about preserving the future of a particular state, where we know that there is a high tendency of conflicts to be arising, then it is necessary for government to make these particular concessions. After all, that's what the government is meant for, to protect its citizens and ensure that the society is progressive in the long run. So pragmatics. Let's quickly talk about why we think that this can work. We say that on a principled level, the drive to do evil by far outweighs the fear of punishment. I'll give you two simple examples. We know that in many states in the United States of America, many states, we see that adopting death penalty is not something that has really worked in many instances. As a matter of fact, the Taliban in Afghanistan told, they were making a statement and they told Donald Trump that, see, if you keep bringing your people to fight us in this place, we are going to remain and keep fighting you back until there's one soldier left in America. So it tells us that whatever measure opposition wants to bring, by saying we should not negotiate with these terrorists, we should not appease them and do things like that, those measures of force, we say that they are not things that deter terrorists, because these people, we see that the drive for them to perpetrate this evil is by far, more than that drive of that fear of punishment that we want to see coming from this side of the house. And if that is the case, we say that what is a higher priority here, something that is higher than the drive for them to do evil is a high possibility of them being satisfied. So as long as there exists a high possibility of them being satisfied, we say that it is something that they will be willing to, it's a trade-off that they will be willing to take, or it's something that they will be willing to, accept. So we say that this is where there's a guarantee of compromise coming from these people. So it shouldn't be the issue of terrorists are not people who are rational. Terrorists are people who don't want to negotiate with the government. They are people who are die-hard and want their demands to be met at all costs and things like that. We say that as long as they see that there's a high possibility for this thing to work out for them, we think that it's something that will ultimately lead them to a point of compromise, so that the state is better off for them and better off for the larger people who, at the end of the day, are going to form, members of the group which are victims in this instance. What have we told you in today's debate? We have told you that as long as the government should be concerned about what is best for ensuring future safety, future prosperity, and future peace for its people, then it shouldn't dwell too much on what has happened before. It should make sure it takes certain steps like consensus we are talking about now that don't really cause major harms to the state at large, to ensure that this peace and sanctity is preserved in society. Proudly, government.